All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much. So I'm Aiden Ryan. I'm a reporter at The Information. I cover crypto, and I'm joined by my two wonderful panelists today, Lule Demissi, who is the CEO of eToro US, and Johan Krbrat, the general manager of crypto at Robinhood. So we obviously have a big question to tackle today, and hopefully I wanted to get a sense first, the kind of state of retail trading at each of your companies. And so Johan, starting with you, how is Robinhood attracting customers to trade crypto in this current environment when retail trading is generally down from last year, and obviously there's a number of regulatory headwinds in the U.S. as well.
Yeah, no, I think retail is definitely down, like you said, and we've seen it. But I think the focus at Robinhood has been to talk to our customers and understand their pain point to get into the crypto world or the Web3 world. And we've seen a lot of them actually really excited to move to Robinhood. Like we've seen our market share improving in the past few months. And I think a lot of that is because we've been focusing on building what they were missing. So we've done a big push on Web3. We launched our self-custody wallet earlier last year, and we're seeing a lot of people adopting it. And that's really exciting for somebody like me to see that people are just using crypto for actually getting into the Web3 world, not just for exposure.
Yeah, that's great. And Lule, I know obviously both Robinhood and eToro offer more than just crypto. In terms of customers that are coming to eToro and engaging with crypto, are you seeing them engage with a whole host of products? Are they coming just for crypto? Like, what does kind of a typical eToro customer look like?
Yeah. Ooh, is it louder for me? Oh, okay. Good afternoon, everybody. So I am the U.S. CEO of eToro, and eToro is a global company. So it's sort of like what Robinhood does, but from a more global perspective. So we have over 32 million social users, and so our usership is not just about people who trade, but also people who actually partake in the conversation around investing, which also gives us some insights. So to answer your question more specifically, we see, at least in the US, when people come, the majority of the actions they're taking actually are, I'd say 50-50, is either stocks, options, which we offer here in the US, and still a sizable, like 50% or more, when it comes to crypto. So crypto is definitely not one thing that they've sort of left behind, but there is an all of the above sort of element where the others are taking share of the new trading that happens among investors. Of course, on a global level, we have other types of products that we offer as well, and they partake in those as well.
Yeah, that's great. And Johan, you mentioned the self-custodial wallet that Robinhood has introduced over the past few months. You also introduced a new product, Robinhood Connect, which is a crypto on-ramp product. How are you seeing customers engage with these new products? Are you seeing meaningful adoption, of those new products that Robinhood is putting out?
Yeah, and I think, like I was saying earlier, like a lot of time we are spending talking to customers. And the main point that we've seen from customers are frustrated with pricing. They are tired of paying fees here and there, and especially in the Web3 space. Like if you wanted to buy an NFT, you have to pay a fee on the on-ramp. You have to pay a fee when you try to trade. And we've seen it in the past year. Like some of our competitors have actually increased their pricing, even though I think nothing has changed really in the space. And if anything, it's becoming more and more scary for some of our retail investors to be in crypto when they see what happened last year. So we've been really focusing on trying to cut all these fees and reducing fees. That's actually one thing that we announced yesterday, is that Robinhood in general is cheaper than most of our competitors. We can get like up to 3.5% more crypto on Robinhood. And for us, it was a big win. Like we've been really focusing on that for a long time. And we want to make sure that retail can count on Robinhood when they want to trade crypto and get the best price.
Yeah, that's great. And it's difficult to talk about retail trading without talking about the regulatory environment in the U.S. Lule, as the CEO of eToro US, I'm curious, in terms of looking at the regulatory environment. Obviously, the SEC, other regulators, are, I think, cracking down on crypto. What do you think the regulatory environment needs to look like, or what are you advocating for at eToro, to help ensure that retail traders will continue trading crypto, that new users will come on? I don't know if there's a kind of a regulatory framework that you were advocating for, but kind of curious what you want that to look like.
Yeah. So I think the one thing that we are always sort of trying to advocate for is regulation that levels the playing field and makes the product formation simpler is the best for everyone, right? The worst thing in the world will be if retail investors are iced out of this innovation the next round it comes around, the next time new innovations come about. I really fundamentally, as players in the retail space, we feel really strongly that the less complex regulation is, the more access then there will be because more competitive sort of advantage will happen with innovators coming in, right? So leveling the playing field is one, clarity is one. I think in general, for us, what we are always worried about is regulation is really important because it makes sure that the rules of the game are steady and there's transparency. But when it has a chilling effect, that's when I feel like it will freeze up for retail investors. And so that's where we are. You don't become a global platform like eToro has in 100 different countries and 11 different jurisdictions without being a regulation first thinker, right? And that's what we are. We in the US alone, we have other registrations outside of just our money transmitter registration. We are also, we have a broker dealer as well. So it doesn't shock us to know that regulatory complexity comes with the game. But our hope is that as regulators form it, like we did in the 1930s, right? That it's a simple framework and not necessarily one that is like complex and then therefore ices out retail.
Yeah, and obviously in the U.S., one of the difficult parts about being a crypto company is that it's not, at least at the current moment, not something that there's a federal framework for. You have to go state by state, get individual money transmitter licenses. How do you think about that at eToro? Kind of what's your approach in going state by state? Engaging with lawmakers and policymakers, on all those different levels.
Yeah. So we just recently got our New York BIT license, which is really exciting, and we're working through how to launch in New York in a way that's going to be compliant to that license. We are taking what we play today, which is a state-by-state logic. So we go and get our licenses state by state or comply with the state sort of logic of how to operate in their company. So we play in the rules of the game today. And then in terms of like go forward, we're just eagerly looking at some of the bipartisan work that's happening out of Congress right now and seeing if that advances. I do not think it's plausible for this industry to be thriving without some bipartisan thoughts around this. And so hopefully that advances and been heartened in seeing some of the work that's been done by the two sides from the House.
Yeah, and then Johan at Robinhood, similarly, and I know at both eToro and Robinhood, in the wake of some legal action from the SEC, where there were allegations that certain tokens were securities, both of your platforms delisted certain tokens that were alleged as securities. Kind of in the wake of that. Johan, I'm curious. Also, what do you think about the regulatory environment? What is needed to ensure that retail traders have, a framework where they can feel safe about trading assets if they're wary of the current environment and yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you quite a bit. I think we need a lot more clarity. We have the chance at Robinhood, so the equities and the crypto business are separated, but we have the chance to lean on the experience of the equity business. We've been regulated by the SEC and FINRA for the past 10 years. We've been, regulated on crypto since our launch in 2018. We had the New York license back then, and so we are always engaging with the regulator, and we're always trying to understand what they are missing and see how we can bridge the gap. But I do agree, like we need to have a bit more clarity to do something. I think also what we've seen last year shows that there is a need for regulation. We've never really talked about it, but for us, not commingling funds between operations and firms and customer funds, not storing all the assets in cold wallets, all of these things, we thought it was like the basic, and we thought it was obvious, but apparently it's not. So for us, like we want to make sure that this is the kind of thing that the regulator are looking into. And yeah, clearly we need more clarity from them, and hopefully when we get that, we'll be able to strive and get back to the place where the US where like the innovative part of this economy.
Can I add one more thing
Yeah,
to this?
please.
Which is like I think sometimes when we're in the tussle of sort of discussing the regulatory framework, we lose the why. And I just want to make sure that I reiterate the why, which is crypto at its heart is also about capital formation, right? And in my opinion, if you do not invest in technologies that advance capital formation, you don't have more equity in this world. And so this is one of the reasons we're so committed to making sure that the retail voice is still remaining, both whether it's participating as investors, but also, we do surveys all the time with our customers. And when they tell us the reason why they do crypto, in the last survey we just did, 40% said it's yes for the investment purpose, but another 50+% said it's because I still believe in blockchain. It's because I still believe in the promise of this technology and what it can do for capital formation. So that North Star, I think, is really important. And I think both regulators and providers can align around that to make sure that this industry does not freeze it out.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm curious also, just for maybe the, obviously we're talking about retail traders, we're talking about adoption of crypto. For users that may be skeptical, they especially in a couple weeks they might be reading headlines about crypto, which will be a lot about the trial of Sam Bankman-Fried. There's going to be a lot more probably coming out from that. What are both of your companies doing, and maybe Lule, starting with you, to ensure that retail traders, make them feel safe when they're trading on your platforms? What kind of outreach are you doing when it comes to that?
Yeah, so the one antidote, I think, to sort of frenzy is de-escalation, and we think that the most important form of de-escalation is to continue to remind our customers about our regulatory strengths, whether it's our licensure, how safe their money is with us, and then the next thing is to constantly teach through education. I feel like at the end of the day, there's always a gotcha news that's told about retail investors as though they're these dummies who are not learning. And so we really focus on continuously providing education and empowerment and knowledge to our investors, whether it's our virtual platform to help them practice, whether it's real-time education and market insights that we're providing. So part of it, in my opinion, is it's so attractive to chase the red hot dot, which is understandable. What we want to do is make sure that at the end of the day, the retail investor is not seen as the dummy in that equation. That indeed it is a much more sophisticated base of investor than we give them credit for.
Yeah, and Johan, I'm curious, at Robinhood, how do you think about the same thing?
Yeah, I think for us, we've been also investing a lot on education overall. Like 50% of the investors at Robinhood are new investors. They've never participated in equities or crypto before. And so for us, on the crypto side, we strongly believe that crypto is a kind of the financial framework of tomorrow. We think that a lot of people that were left out by the previous financial system can actually get back there with crypto. And so we've been investing a lot on helping them understand what is crypto, what is it even used for, and what can you do with it. But the other thing is, and I say that as an engineer, I always think like crypto was made by technical folks for technical folks, and at the end of the day, people want to be able to use Web3 without necessarily caring about what is a layer 1 or the layer 2, or how do I bridge between layer 2 and layer 3. They just want to be able to use it, right? Like the same way that when you watch a TikTok video, you don't know what is the database or what is the system behind it. And so I think we need to kind of make a step forward into what is what are people interested in, and what we see when we talk to them is like they want to get to the NFT world, they want to get into gaming, they want to get into the social network, and for that they want to use crypto, but they don't necessarily need to know all the things about the underlying technology.
Yeah, and Johan, I'm curious also, just kind of on this trend, and thinking about adoption of crypto. Robinhood also, doesn't just operate in the U.S. So you have other countries, and where there are different regulatory frameworks in place. How do you think about, and kind of going off what you just said, use cases with crypto? Beyond kind of the speculative nature of trading, what is Robinhood doing there to articulate the use cases, the different use cases of crypto around the world?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of progress on the wallet, the self-custody wallet. So it's something where customers own their keys. We don't have any kind of control over their keys, and we've seen a lot of success. It's been downloaded in 140 plus countries. 100,000 of wallets were created, and so for us as a domestic U.S. business, it was a big change. And we're excited to see that. We want to see people being able to freely exchange and transfer crypto, and be able to access all kind of the Web3 dApps that are available and that are still a bit too complicated at this point to use, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Lule, I'm curious, in other ways that you're trying to bring on users. I know, I think a few months ago, eToro announced a partnership with X or Twitter. I'm curious, how is that going? Have you seen traction from users on that network or on that platform who are coming to eToro as well and engaging with all your products?
Yeah, so eToro ultimately, is a multi-asset platform that has social at its core. So it made sense that we would partner with Twitter, which is the larger social ecosystem of 500 million voices engaging, and which Twitter has finance as one of its main pillars. So it made sense that a partnership like that would end up then feeding into our social ecosystem, and then people could start investing. So we're really pleased with some of those results, especially at the top of the funnel. We got a lot of engagement. We got a lot of brand awareness. In the U.S., eToro doesn't enjoy the same sort of brand awareness that Robinhood does. So that kind of partnership elevated our brand for us, and so that was a very valuable thing. In terms of acquisition and sort of growing our client base, whether it's here or abroad, part of it, in my opinion, is understanding where the market is at right now, and there is no doubt about it that the retail investor is leaning into stocks and options. You see the contracts that are taking place. Contracts and options are higher now than they were even before the pandemic, right? And so one of the things we're doing is advocating for a multi-asset platform in which we're moving with where the voice of the customer is going and where the dollars of those customers are going. And they're definitely going through those sort of diversifying their asset base beyond just crypto as well.
And then to go to, obviously, we have, like I said, a question for this panel. Is the future of mass adoption still retail trading? And I kind of want to ask you both, first of all, was it ever retail trading? Was that the future of mass adoption? And if not, what is needed for more adoption in crypto and mass adoption, within the industry? And maybe Johan, starting with you.
We think crypto is here to stay. We think we've seen this cycle. It's not the first time. Robinhood Crypto launched in 2018 during the last big winter, and at the time, everyone was kind of asking us like, why are you even thinking about crypto right now? And we've seen it, like the trend change, and we think this is what's going to happen again. I think this cycle is very different. We start to see institutions going into the space quite a bit. And I think the regulation are going to change a lot of the discussion here. Like as soon as we have a bit more clarity, company will be able to start building again and focus less on what is permissible or not, and actually do the right thing from the get-go. And we start to see it like in the EU, for example, with the MiCA or MiCA framework. Things are getting a lot more clarity in this part of the world, and so we just need it in the US.
Yeah, and Lule.
So I think I'll just give you an image to think about. If 10 years from now, the only way you can buy a crypto asset is through a mutual fund, we would have failed. The whole point of the democratization of investing is to make the raw material closer and closer and accessible to the retail investor. So ultimately, I think I do not know how you can do mass adoption without culture embracing something and without retail investors having access to the raw material. Right? So my hope is that indeed this is a moment in time. Winters are really good for retrenching and redesigning our reality, but ultimately that we figure out a safe and a level playing field for the retail investor to continue to have access to the raw materials and not the institutionalized products, which would take us backwards in terms of retail investment rights.
Well, we've just got just under a minute left, and I want to just ask one more question for you both. I'm just curious, in thinking about this idea of the future of mass adoption, I don't know, maybe in a few words or in a short answer, what else is needed? Well, we obviously talked a lot about regulation. We talked about use cases. We talked about, all the different ways that to bring users on and to, scale that. But I'm curious, anything else we missed? Anything else that you would want to say that, is needed for mass adoption? And Lule, maybe starting with you.
I think the one lesson to learn is just beware of bubbles, right? I think that, what happened this round, I feel like some pretty bad stuff happened, but then some really good stuff got burnt because of it, right? Not every provider is created equal. Most of us are trying to do level playing field, doing right by the client, and then also making sure we're compliant with the regulators. And so I think that ultimately it's sort of like I just want to make sure that we learn from the wisdom of bubbles are dangerous. And so as we create more adoption and drive the next wind, that we've learned from that wisdom and making sure that we're building on real things and not necessarily just phantom ideas.
Johan, maybe just a quick word before we
Yeah, I think that's totally right, and I think also like simplicity and thinking about the UI and UX, I think is going to be really important. We're still too focused on the technical aspect of all these products, and I think at Robinhood we've been doing a pretty good job at breaking the barrier of access for options, for equities, but and I think we can do that on crypto moving forward as well.
Great. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.